back. Let me see if I could do this video without messing up technically, without having technical issues. Today we're probably going to make another vase form. So we're going to start off with a tall cylinder. Let's get myself started here. Alright, got a nice piece of clay. And it has some downward compression so I can make sure it's adhered to the wheel head nicely, so I'm going to come off later. And my clay has been sitting, so it's super hard. Work it in a little bit, so I'm going to wedge this up and down a little bit. So one thing I like to do is when I get near the top, I'll wrap my right hand up to the top like so. Right? You can see it on this camera in front. And so when I push up the clay, it actually makes that point. Could avoid that volcano that we've seen in previous videos. Press this down. I have that elbow locked into my hip so that clay doesn't get too wide. I'm start to control it. It's not going to push my whole body up. Crooked. One of the things I like to do at the very end is with some pressure on that right hand to prevent it from coming up. I'll do like a quasi coning up. That way I can smoothen up the sides, make it nice and centered, but the clay doesn't go up. Okay. So after you cone down, if you find that you're slightly off-centered, just a little bit of compression with that left hand as you roll up, and make sure that clay doesn't come up. And you can find that down with your right hand. Down a little bit more. Get this pretty wide. Remember, we can test for center. I do our pin tool test, visually check it first. If it's wobbling, then obviously we don't need to test it. We just need to cone up and down some more. We want to test it in 3 spots near the top, barely grazing, once in the middle, barely grazing once again, and down near the bottom. Okay. And you'll notice, and this is pretty typical, that you might have a ring that goes all the way around the top in the middle, but that bottom one, it's gonna be a little tough. So we do want to cone that down, and I do want to emphasize making sure the bottom of the piece is centered. So what I want to do is I'm going to use the right hand, as the clay is going with the flow of my hand. I'm going to compress a little bit with my pinky, not with my left hand, because as the clay comes in, if my finger gets jammed in the clay, it's going to hurt. A little compression on the right side. See that bump I made? We're going to cone that up. Just a touch. Okay, and cock nice and easy. I might just go ahead and open with this. Alright, so just go ahead and test that, make sure it's centered, and you're good to go. And we're going to brace our piece. Got it centered, so brace the piece, don't eyeball center. And go ahead and make your divot. I like to get a little bit of water in that well, so as I go down, have that lubrication. Okay, hold your spot. And nice and easy. We're going to stop the wheel now to test to see how thick the base is. And we're going to poke all the way down meet the cut the finger and we'll see how thick it is. And I have my pinky width, which is what I want. That way I know when I'm trimming later in the future, I know how thick the bottom is. And I want to be as consistent with that as possible so I have a system in place. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up. Pressing with my thumb. As wide as I want it. I can press this area down in the center and make it nice and flat. I want to come back in there later with a sponge to get rid of any excess water. So what I like to do is really come in aggressively so there's like a nice little ledge in there. That helps me with my first lift and also trains my body not to do this compression motion that keeps on going up. Rather it goes in and goes up. That way we can have nice straight walls and not walls that taper up. Make sure we have pressure on both sides of the clay because that may be hard to do. You notice I wrap my thumbs around and it's like I'm pinching, but the pressure is actually on my right hand. That left hand is actually just providing a placeholder more or less for where my right hand's supposed to go. Okay, so you can see as this has gotten a lot taller, that left hand doesn't really work that well for a placeholder, but I can rest it on my right hand so they both come up together. Eventually when you do this enough, your muscle memory will develop and they'll come up together with a lot more ease. Press down in here and get rid of some water. Now, with any form, it all starts off with the cylinder. So we want to get really good at making good cylinders. I want to be able to do it really quickly, almost like be able to do it in your sleep good. Because if you're struggling with cylinders, everything else is going to be really challenging. When you're doing long pulls, you gotta get caught up in the moment. Sometimes you forget to breathe. Don't forget to relax and breathe. If you get too stiff, your walls will not be straight. Right. You notice that it comes out around here. The secret to making taller cylinders is to push that and compress that in, get that ledge and bring that clay up. So, compress that in. That little ledge that it makes, we're going to lift that up. This is going to give us a little bit of height. Also, that clay is going to blend in with any uneven spaces and can help us even out our clay walls. The other thing that will make our cylinder taller is if we actually end up making it a little bit more narrow, because that same volume of clay needs to go somewhere, and when we're working on the wheel, it almost always goes out. Let's take off the top. And make sure you touch the clay wall all the way on every surface, every plane as you go up. So you want to have those nice horizontal lines. If you see lines on there that look like a barber pole, it means you're going too fast. Take your time. If you feel your hands getting dry, stop where they are. Get your hands wet. And continue where you left off. You don't want to have thin spots. If we have thin spots, our clay is gonna buckle and twist. The weight of the clay won't be uniform, or the thickness of the clay won't be uniform, and the weights will go down and collapse that thin spot. There'll be too much clay above it. For me, I have a kick wheel, so sometimes it's going to slow down. I need to stop and start over again frequently. I do have a motor. I'm not always using that motor. One or two more pulls, we'll cut the top, start to make our vessel. Some water out. I always want to feel how the clay is doing. Do we have thick spots, thin spots? How thick spots, we want to work that out. Try to have consistent touch. Just be kind of aware of what you're feeling there. There's a lot of stuff going on when you're working on the wheel. Good. Take off the top one more time. Clean up this side. And start to make that vessel. A wooden modeling tool. And take that sharp cut side along the side of my profile here. Trim off any excess clay that we can get rid of. Use that pin tool to separate from the wheel head. So what do we make? Always the question. Remember, if you follow me, you can make a request and I'll do the demo for you. We make a nice vase. Someone's visiting. It's probably my daughter. It's about that time of day when school's out, so dogs are probably greeting her. You can use a rib. Nice angle. Switch to a more flexible rib for the shoulder here. Let's go with my bigger metal one. Top again. Camera moved. I'll forever have technical difficulties. Let's see if we can. Oh, yikes. Okay. A little better. Thank you for fixing that camera for me. Moving on up in the world, I have an assistant for my cameras today. Thing about the base of your piece is that if you plan on coming in narrow, throwing on a piece that has a very narrow base is really challenging. So this support gets really wobbly if the bottom is really narrow. And so right now we need this, but we'll probably come and cut quite a bit of that out down there, and also trim the bottom so it's a little bit cleaner. But we really trim all this so it won't be so wide at the bottom. And that's something that we're going to do much later when the clay is firmed up and we got the form the way we want it. I'm liking how this form looks on the outside. It's got a nice clean curve, goes in. Once again, it's pretty wide, but we're going to go in and cut. And that's what we'll do when we trim the piece on another day. Alright, so that is a vase form for you. Once again, starting off with a cylinder, making a straight, and then giving it the volume. Use your rigid ribs to make a nice curve, and really take advantage of any straight edges that you might have, like this rib where I work on this side so it's nice and straight. And once again, we'll follow that line down, but once again at a later point. Bring that up right there. And we'll show you how this turns out the rest of the time. We did open the kiln today. I went to the studio, and you can see in the background over there, I have an L&L kiln, and that's for my bisque firings. Then I'll take it to the studio where I'll glaze it. They have a big high-fired cone 10 reduction kiln, and that's what we fire here. Do not want to fire this kiln, although it can go to cone 10, which is about 2380 degrees. Even though we can go that temperature, I don't want to stress out that kiln too much, so I don't want to fire it like that. Not to mention, I would get a oxidized environment, which can look pretty interesting. But I usually go to a studio. Like I said, if you look at my bio, a student of mine opened up their studio, and I teach there, so I take my pieces and glaze them there. So I'll probably share those pots with you later this afternoon, take them out, set them aside, and share some of the finished product that we've made. None of which, by the way, are the pieces that we made on this video. These pieces were done prior to me making these live stream instructional videos. Alright, so once again, if you want me to demo anything in particular, please follow me, send me a message, let me know what you want to see made, and I'm happy to do it for you. I know I haven't really solidified like a schedule that I'm working, so it's hard to watch it live, but I do see that people are watching it at other times, and so I'm glad to see that it's helping some people, or some people are finding some entertainment value from this. But once again, I would love to be able to demo something that you want me to make, so that you can use that for yourself when you're at the studio. You can turn on your phone, watch the video, and get some instruction. Alright, I'll talk to you guys later.